Has the long-awaited reckoning finally arrived for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Or are we merely witnessing another painful chapter in a story of unfulfilled promise? For years, Leafs Nation has yearned for change, for a true shakeup that transcends the usual off-season whispers. Well, hold on to your hats, because the summer has barely begun, and already 3 bombshells have detonated at the heart of the blue and white. First, Mitch Marner, the hometown prodigy, is practically out the door. General Manager Brad Treliving himself confirmed it. Unless something changes drastically, I believe he will hit the market. Then, in a move few anticipated, the name Joseph Woll, the promising goalie many saw as the franchise's future, began to circulate behind the scenes as a possible trade chip. And now, a new name emerges on the radar: Dawson Mercer, a young talent from the Devils, who could be the key to rebuilding our top 6 offense. These aren't just rumors. They are clear signals that the Toronto Maple Leafs are on the cusp of a true metamorphosis. The core is fracturing. The stakes are astronomically high, and the future will hinge on the decisions made in the coming days. If you're a true Leafs fan, smash that like button now and subscribe to the channel, because this is where the fans' voice matters and where the new blue and white era begins to be written. In the next few minutes, we will dive into each of these stories, and you will understand why this offseason could be the most impactful in the last decade for Toronto. Trade news number 1. The unceremonious exit of a hometown hero. What if Mitch Marner's last pass wearing the blue and white jersey has already happened, and we just haven't realized it yet? What if the silence from management, the coldness of their answers, and the resigned tone of the fans are actually the prelude to an ending we didn't want to admit? The truth is harsh, but it must be spoken. Mitch Marner is leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs, and when a player born in the city, who wore that crest with pride and gave everything he had, is about to depart, the impact reverberates far beyond the ice. It's not just a trade, it's the closing of a cycle, and perhaps, just perhaps, the first real step toward a transformation that Leafs Nation has been craving for years. In 2015, when Mitch Marner's name echoed as the 4th overall pick in the NHL draft, Scotiabank Arena erupted with hope. He wasn't just another talented prospect, he was a kid from Markham, passionate about hockey, a lifelong Leafs fan who grew up dreaming of wearing that uniform. And he fulfilled that dream with brilliance. He racked up over 700 points, 520 assists, elite seasons, individual awards, and incredible streaks in the regular season. Marner was a fundamental piece of the most explosive offense Toronto had in decades. But there was always a stumbling block. The same one: the playoffs. Every spring, the same story repeated itself. Lackluster performances in decisive moments, frustrating eliminations, and a persistent feeling that something was always missing. It wasn't a lack of desire. It wasn't a lack of talent. It was something deeper. Something that Brad Treliving himself summed up in one chilling sentence: there's a DNA that needs to be changed. And maybe that DNA starts exactly where no one wanted to touch: Mitch Marner. Before continuing, leave your like and subscribe. This channel is made by those who live this pain and passion with you. And in the coming days, more tough decisions may be on the way. This past Thursday, Brad Treliving, the Leafs general manager, ended the suspense. No beating around the bush. He stated, "Unless something changes drastically, I believe he will hit the market." With this sentence, he made real what until then was only speculation. Mitch Marner, at 28 years old, with a 102-point season behind him, is about to test the market when free agency opens on July 1st. There is no more mystery. The cycle is closed, albeit without ceremony. The relationship between player and franchise has deteriorated. During the season, Marner declined contract renewal offers, and when negotiations with other teams surfaced, he used his no-trade clause to veto a possible trade to the Carolina Hurricanes that involved Martiniquez. There were also talks with the Vegas Golden Knights for a 3-team deal, but nothing progressed. Control was in Marner's hands all along, and he chose to wait. Now, with the contract ending, he becomes a free agent, and the Toronto Maple Leafs risk losing one of the franchise's greatest talents in the last 20 years without receiving anything in return. But what happened behind the scenes for this relationship to fall apart? Since Brad Treliving's arrival as GM, it became clear that drastic changes would be necessary. Toronto cannot keep heavily investing in the same core, hoping for different results. And after another second-round elimination, with underwhelming performances from its stars, the alarm bell rang louder than ever. Treliving's comment about DNA was no accident. It exposes a structural problem. A team that shines in the regular season but trembles in the playoffs. Marner, despite being one of the most talented players in the NHL, became a symbol of this narrative. As impressive as his numbers are, the absence of leadership in the most critical moments has been a heavy burden to ignore. And when the player himself declines contract extensions and blocks trade offers, the message is clear. He wants freedom. He wants to choose the next destination. And Toronto, as much as it tried, no longer seems to be part of that future. Now, management's focus is divided. With Marner practically out of plans, the Leafs concentrate their energy on renewing with John Tavares, another veteran whose contract is nearing its end. They also need to protect their immediate future, especially Matthew Knies, the young forward many see as a key piece in the new generation. Marner's departure is not just a technical loss, it is also an emotional restructuring. With his imminent entry into the market, the Leafs lose a local idol, someone who understood, perhaps more than anyone else in the locker room, what it means to wear this jersey in Toronto. But they also open space to reconfigure the roster, reassess priorities, and maybe build a more balanced group, less dependent on stars and better prepared for 7-game battles.
Still, the question remains, what if Mitch Marner changes his mind? What if at the last minute, something changes drastically? As Treliving suggested, the window is narrow, but exists. Until July 1st, any turnaround is still possible. But judging by the current atmosphere, it's a slim chance. So, Leafs Nation, it's time to face reality. Mitch Marner is leaving. And maybe this is not the end, but the beginning of something new. Do you think the Leafs should have pushed harder, or was this an inevitable separation? Comment down below. Trade news number 2. The unexpected sacrifice of Joseph. Well, what if the future that the fans dreamed so much about was about to leave even before it materialized? What if the promising goalie, the name that symbolized stability and renewal for the Maple Leafs, was now involved in the most unexpected rumor of this offseason? No one saw this coming. But according to insider David Pagnotta, a new name has entered the hot backstage in Toronto, Joseph Woll. In a summer already promising to be tense because of Mitch Marner and Tyler Bertuzzi, the focus now shifts. It's no longer just about the big salaries on offense, but also what Toronto might sacrifice to win now. And when the sacrifice is your goalie of the future, the message is clear. The time for patience is over. The priority now is to win. Joseph Woll was not just another name on the Leafs roster. He represented a long-term bet made by the franchise. While Toronto spent picks cap space and hope on goalies coming and going, Woll was a silent project, forging a home the calm, technical, methodical kid. Every NHL appearance left a hint of hope. He could be the guy. Someone who would finally stabilize a position marked by instability. But that plan was never simple. Injuries always knocked on the door. Woll showed incredible flashes of consistency, but never stayed healthy long enough to establish himself. And over the years, Leafs Nation started to realize his future might not be as guaranteed as it seemed. Still, the idea was clear. Keep Woll, develop him, and when ready, have the ideal goalie for a championship window. But that window is closing. And when patience and time become luxuries, even the best plans become trade chips. What looked like a predictable summer for the Leafs changed tone when David Pagnotta, a respected NHL insider, revealed Joseph Woll was being considered as a possible trade piece. And no, this isn't random speculation. It's a clear sign the Toronto management is willing to shake up the roster structure deeply. For weeks, media focus was on names like Mitch Marner and Tyler Bertuzzi. High salaries, questionable playoff performances as expected. But adding Woll to the conversation exposes something more strategic. The Leafs' desire to finally reinforce what has been a hole in the roster for years. The center position, with John Tavares aging and the third and fourth lines lacking consistent offensive impact. Management sees center as the weakest link in the chain. And if the only way to fill that hole is to give up a young, promising asset, the Leafs seem ready for that. This possible trade doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's connected to a complete internal philosophy change within the team. Since the playoff elimination, it became clear the Leafs can't keep living in almost. There's talent, there are pieces, but there's a lack of balance, a lack of answers at the most critical moments. And this is where Craig Berube, the new general manager, steps in. Berube brings a straightforward, practical mentality. Focus on immediate results. There's no room to wait 2 or 3 years for a promising goalie if, during that period, the Stanley Cup chances slip away. Berube has already started to move the pieces. Matt Murray was renewed for another year. Yes, that same Matt Murray, veteran, experienced, who knows how to handle playoff pressure. At the same time, Swedish prospect Dennis Hildeby has been growing in consistency, standing out in the minors and gaining backstage respect. With these two pieces in sight, the scenario changes. Joseph Woll stops being untouchable and becomes viable. And what if he could bring a second or third line center who steps in immediately, produces points, defends well, and balances the attack? For a franchise that lost so many series due to a lack of depth, that might be more valuable than a goalie with an injury history. Let's project the scenarios. Scenario 1, Woll is traded. Toronto gets a productive center, maybe with a short contract, maybe with upside. This piece could change the third line's dynamic, which often seems invisible in the playoffs. Berube bets on the Murray plus Hildeby system in goal, keeping the cap tighter and opening space for other acquisitions. Scenario 2, Woll stays. Toronto keeps the asset, continues hoping he overcomes his physical problems, and that he will be a pillar in the coming years. But in this scenario, the team remains vulnerable at center, and the championship window narrative gets complicated. The dilemma is clear. Keep betting on the future, or sacrifice now to compete strongly. Remember, the Leafs are in a hurry. External pressure grows. The roster feels a way of the past. And management knows one more early elimination, and the current cycle can collapse for good. Joseph Woll is not just a goalie. He is a symbol of a crossroads between what the Leafs want to be and what they need to be now. So, fan, do you believe the future still goes through Woll, or do you think it's time to look ahead, even if that means giving up a promising talent? Comment below. This channel is the voice of Leafs Nation, and every opinion here helps build this new path. Trade news number 3. The creative solution, Dawson Mercer. When a pillar of your offense is about to leave, you look for answers. But when the free agent market offers none, you need to get creative. You need to go beyond, think differently, take a risk. And that's exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs might be about to do. With Mitch Marner increasingly distant from Toronto, the spotlight turns to a new name, Dawson Mercer from the New Jersey Devils. He's not a star yet, but he might be exactly what the Leafs need right now. Youth, speed, hunger, and room to grow. The rumor is still in its infancy, but it's starting to gain traction. And in the middle of a decisive offseason, Mercer's arrival could mark a turning point in the team's identity. Is it time for Toronto to abandon the old script and write a new story? The relationship between Toronto and Mitch Marner was, for years, one of the most emotional narratives in modern NHL history. The Toronto boy, picked high in the draft, representing the hope of a city hungry for victories. He wore the jersey with pride, shine, captivated, but also carried scars. Playoff after playoff, the same script played out. High expectations, underwhelming performances, early eliminations. And as painful as it is, it's time to turn the page. In a recent press conference, General Manager Brad Treliving was clear. Unless there is a significant change, I expect he will hit the market. Translation: Marner is leaving, and the problem is the free agent market is shallow. There aren't enough impact names to replace a player who scored 102 points last season. It's in this vacuum that the possibility of a trade arises. Not for someone established, but for someone ready to take the leap. Dawson Mercer is only 23 years old, has scored 27 goals in a season, and according to analysts, maybe on the Leafs' radar. If you're enjoying the video, leave your like now. Subscribe, because this summer could be the most transformative in the last decade in Toronto, and you'll follow it all here. Mercer's name began circulating through analyst Anthony Petrielli from Maple Leafs Hot Stove. According to him, the Leafs could look at Mercer as an internal solution for the top six, especially if he is used as a center alongside William Nylander. He played well as a center, Petrielli wrote. I'd be curious to see him alongside Nylander for half a season and assess his progress. And he goes further. Young players who can skate and put the puck in the net are always attractive. Mercer is still young enough to believe there is much more to discover. In other words, the Leafs might not just be seeking an immediate replacement, but a developing asset with potential to grow within Toronto's system. Last season, Mercer scored 19 goals and 17 assists, totaling 36 points in 82 games. But in 2022-23, he had 56 points and 27 goals, showing the talent is there, even with a recent dip in production. And with 2 years remaining on a $12 million contract, Mercer also fits a salary cap control logic important to Toronto. Mercer's possible availability comes from another story, the New Jersey Devils restructuring. Insider Nick Kypreos revealed that GM Tom Fitzgerald wants real changes in his roster. We're not bringing back the same group, Fitzgerald said. This overhaul already started with the departure of Eric Haula, traded to the Nashville Predators. But Kypreos went further. Dawson Mercer appeared on my trade bait list and remains there in the second version. According to him, despite being young and promising, Mercer might need a change of scenery, a new environment, new responsibilities, a franchise where he has a bigger role. Toronto could be that place. With Marner leaving, the Leafs not only have cap space, but a clear gap in offensive rotation. And for Berube, a coach who values youth with tactical responsibility, Mercer would be an ideal project, moldable, disciplined, and already with NHL experience. Let's calmly analyze what Mercer represents at this moment. He's not an immediate one-for-one replacement for Marner, but he could be part of a collective solution. Mercer is versatile. He can play center or wing. He has good finishing, excellent skating, and knows how to work at high speed, a style that fits Nylander and could also work well with Knies or Robertson. Unlike more expensive gambles or inconsistent veterans, Mercer offers something rare, potential and an affordable price. Toronto needs that. The team is overloaded on the salary cap and can't afford to make the same mistakes of previous years. Big contract for names that don't deliver in the playoffs. With Mercer, the franchise changes strategy. It leaves behind a win-now-at-all-cost mentality and enters a mindset of, let's build a new competitive core intelligently. Furthermore, he still has 2 years on his contract, so it's not just a short-term rental. It's a piece with time to fit and evolve, and maybe become part of the Leafs' new core. Trading Marner isn't easy. It's giving up a symbol, but time has passed. Chances were given, and the current roster's competitive ceiling seems to have been reached. With Mercer, Toronto bets not on nostalgia, but on real renewal. The franchise doesn't need a name that carries history. It needs someone who carries a future. Mercer, who will be 24 next season, represents that. A new phase where the focus is on developing a team with its own identity, without clinging to established names that in practice have already given all they could. And if Berube, Treliving, and management get this bet right, the Leafs might finally have a different backbone. Younger, lighter, more competitive. Now it's up to you, Leafs Nation fan. Do you think Dawson Mercer would be a good bet for the new Toronto? Or should the franchise look for something safer, even if more expensive? Comment down below. Your opinion matters. And this trade, if it happens, will divide hearts. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because in the next video, we will analyze what the Leafs could offer the Devils in this trade. Who goes, who stays, and what does it mean for the 2024-25 season? The summer started slow, but it's heating up fast. And Mercer could be the first big step for a team that finally learns to win in April, or the first mistake of another badly calculated rebuild. The only certainty, the next few days will define the Leafs' future for many years to come.